Quick, sharp passes. It will come to Orpik from Gonchar. To the left wing to Pascal Dupuis. The Penguin left winger storms the Flyer line. To the right side to Hossa. He's in the Flyers. Shot scores! It might have been deflected by Dupuis. He got the stick out. Dupuis may have knocked it in. The Penguins have a 6-0 lead. Oh, how much fried chicken can you eat? Pascal Dupuis.
Hey everybody, and welcome to the Puck Drops here. This is a revisiting video on the 2008 Eastern Conference champion hockey club in the Pittsburgh Penguins, and we will look at their record and standings as well as players. This is a team that had been in the doldrums of the Eastern Conference for the last 4 years, but 2 years ago to this point, they have been an exciting building team of youth. They made the playoffs the previous year and losing to the Ottawa Senators in 5 in the first round. And this year they were the fourth best team in the in the NHL, second best team in the Eastern Conference behind the Montreal Canadiens, the San Jose Sharks in the league, and the Detroit Red Wings in the National Hockey League full. And we look at their roster. And in their roster, they had a bunch of wingers and centers. They had Colby Armstrong and Chris Beach and Tim Brent. Lower line centers, Eric Christensen. The youngest captain at that time, Sidney Crosby, Pascal Dupuis, Jonathan Felowich, Adam Hall, Marian Hossa was required early in the season from the Atlanta Thrashers, Connor James, Tyler Kennedy, Georges Laraque, Yevgeny Malkin, an alternate captain who was one of the best teammates with Sidney Crosby, Ryan Malone, Christian Menard, the ageless Mark Recchi, Gary Roberts, Jarkko Ruutu, Nathan Smith, Jordan Staal, of course, good center there. Ryan Stone, the former Duck and Devil with plenty of Stanley Cup playoff experience. Peter Sakara, Jeff Toffee, and Max Talbot, the future Flyer. On defense, the leader of the defense, and Mark Eaton, Hal Gill joined him, as well as the rookie Alexander Goligoski, Sergei Gonchar, Chris Letang, alternate captain, who was drafted earlier and taken midseason from Wilkes-Barre Scranton Penguins, Alan Nash-Redden, Brooks Orpik, Rob Scuderi, Darryl Sador, and Ryan Whitney. For the goaltenders, former Oiler Ty Conklin and Danny Saburin, and the Quebec native Marc-Andre Fleury, who was a huge piece, the young goaltender was. They were 47-27-8, second in the Eastern Conference, and they would face in the playoff year the same team they lost to the previous year, the defending Eastern Conference champion Ottawa Senators. And they would end up gathering 35 shots on goal on Martin Gerber, and Ottawa had 26 shots on Fleury. Gary Roberts, 108 in, made it 1-0 Penguins, 12:28 into the first. Peter Sakura made it 2-0 Pittsburgh. No goals in the second, 13:58 into the third period. Yevgeny Malkin from passes by Whitney and Scott Malone made it 3-0 Penguins. And Gary Roberts, 18:25 in on a power play, scored his second goal of the year, making it 4-0 Penguins and a shutout for Marc-Andre Fleury. For Ottawa and Pittsburgh in Game 2, the Penguins in regulation did an amazing thing in gathering 54 shots on goal on Martin Gerber, scoring 5 of them. 3 goals went in past Fleury, with Ottawa gathering 30 shots on goal. Sergei Gonchar, 16:10 into the first period, made it 1-0 Penguins. Shakura, 5:22 into the second, made it 2-0 on a power play. Shakura, 10:52 in, made it 3-0 Pittsburgh. Shane Donovan, first goal of the playoff year for the Senators, 11:25 in, cut the deficit to 2. Corey Stillman cut the deficit in half in a power play goal, 16:11 in, and that would end the second. Into the third, 8:51 in, Cody Boss would tie the game at 3. With 1:02 left in the third period, Ryan Malone would give the Penguins the lead, and with only 7 seconds left off the board, Ryan Malone would gather an empty netter to take a 2-goal lead and go up to the Canadian capital, Ottawa, with a 2-0 series lead. To Scotiabank Place they would go, and Marc-Andre Fleury was stellar. He only gave up 1 shot in the goal, with 34 shots on goal by the Ottawa Senators. Pittsburgh had 38 shots on goal on Gerber, while Ottawa did have 34 shots on Fleury. No goals in the first period. Then the rookie Nick Foligno, 1:11 in, scored to make it 1-0 Ottawa in the second period. 5:39 into the second, Talbot tied the game for the Penguins. 12 seconds into the third, Sidney Crosby would get what would turn out to be the game-winning goal. 1:30 into the third stall, make it 3-1, and Hossa 8:55 in would make it 4-1 Penguins, and that would end that. To Game 4 they would go, Pittsburgh and Ottawa, and the Pittsburgh Penguins would gather 34 shots on Gerber, scoring 3 goals, and Ottawa would have 22 shots on Fleury, another spectacular performance from the Quebec-born goalie, and Pittsburgh would win Game 4. In the first, no goals were scored, and 1:40 into the second, another quick start for Yevgeny Malkin and the Pittsburgh Penguins. 10:31 in, though, from Velechnikov and Redden, Corey Stillman would tie the game for the Senators. 15:28 in, Jarkko Ruutu would get what would end up being the game-winning goal, and with 8 seconds left in the game, Sidney Crosby would cap off the party with an empty netter, and Pittsburgh would move on to the second round. There they would face an old friend and an old rival that they hadn't seen in 16 years in the playoffs, and that would be the New York Rangers, a young team who had the third consecutive year in the playoffs. They had played Buffalo the year before in 6 in the second round and had gotten through the Devils. This was a team that was finally starting to shed their mentality that they had, and now they had Game 1 against Pittsburgh, along with their star in Jaromir Jagr, who was the former Penguin draft pick in '88. Straka scored on a power play 13:40 in to make it 1-0 Rangers. Later in the second period, Chris Drury made it 2-0, 1:52 in. Sean Avery made it 3-0, 3:37 in. And then Jarkko Ruutu scored a first goal for the Penguins to make it 3-1. Then Pascal Dupuis cut the lead in half in the second. And then it would go to the third period. 4:40 in, Marian Hossa would tie the game. Peter Sikora would give the Penguins the first lead of the evening at 4-3. Then Scott Gomez, 10:04 in, the former Devil, would tie the game at 4. And then on the power play, with 1:39 left, Yevgeny Malkin would get the game winner in a wonderful Game 1, and 24 shots on goal on Fleury, and 26 shots on Lundqvist. For Pittsburgh and the New York Rangers, for Game 2, the Penguins would try to gather up all the resources to be able to take this game to a 2-0 series lead and head to Madison Square Garden with 2-0, and they would do so. 26 shots on Marc-Andre Fleury and 30 shots on Henrik Lundqvist. In the first and the second, there was no scoring for the Rangers, and in the second, for the Penguins, finally struck 13:55 in, the game-winning goal by Jordan Staal. And with 17 seconds left in regulation in the third, Adam Hall would gather an empty netter, and a wonderful night for Lundqvist was spoiled as the Penguins would take a 2-0 series lead going to New York. There, the Penguins would be able to take control of their absolute situation that would arise. And 1:02 into the first, Marian Hossa made it 1-0 Penguins. 14:32 into the first, Straka would tie it for the Rangers, sending the Madison Square Garden crowd into a rapid frenzy. George Laraque, 16:17 in, would make it 2-1 Penguins. Yevgeny Malkin, 17:41 in, would make it 3-1 Penguins. And with 2:07 left in the first period, what would end up being and becoming the game-winning goal, Yevgeny Malkin made it 4-1 in favor of the Penguins. In the second, 12:07 in, now the Rangers would strike. Callahan, the young captain for the Rangers, would make it 4-2, and then 13:11 in, Jagr would make it 4-3. Ryan Malone would score for the Penguins 2:30 in to make it 5-3, and that was all she wrote for the Rangers. 36 shots on Fleury, 12 shots on Henrik Lundqvist. And the Penguins would go get ready for Game 4 up 3-0. They would try to clinch the conference for the first time since 2001, but it was not to be in this game. No goals in the first period. With 12:45 in, the former Penguin Yager would show his playoff worth with his fourth goal of the playoff year to make it 1-0 Rangers. 44 seconds into the third, Brandon Dubinsky would make it 2-0 New York. And with 14 seconds left in regulation, a power play empty net goal for Jaromir Jagr, and the Rangers would stay alive. 29 shots on Henrik Lundqvist. He stopped them all. 20 saves on Fleury. 2 shots that got past him, though, by Jagr and Dubinsky. And the Rangers and Penguins would go back up to Mellon. The Rangers trying to stave elimination and go to Game 6 back there in Madison Square Garden, and the Penguins trying to advance at home. Again, no goals in the first, and in the second, it turned out to be all Penguins. Marian Hossa, 8:45 in, a power play goal, his fourth of the playoffs, and the sixth goal of the playoffs for Yevgeny Malkin, 12:40 in, but 4 minutes later, made it 2-0 Pittsburgh. Then 2:03 in, the first goal of the playoffs for Lauri Korpikoski, cut the lead in half, and Nigel Dawes, 3:25 in, made it a tie game, and then it would go to overtime, where there were 20 shots on Fleury and 37 shots on Henrik Lundqvist. And as the puck was getting jostled off the blue line, it may have been offside, but no call at that point. Crosby was able to play it on for Dupuis, and a shot was scored, and it was Hossa. Great plays by Dupuis and by Crosby. And Marian Hossa lifted it glove hand over Lundqvist to end the series and send the Penguins to the conference final. There they would meet because of an upset with the Capitals in the first round, an upset in the second round with the Montreal Canadiens. They would meet their state foes, the Philadelphia Flyers, a team they hadn't played in the playoffs in 8 seasons. And they were dominated by the Flyers in that matchup. And we'd go to Mellon Arena in the conference final to play the Flyers. And this was all Penguins. In the first period, Sikora struck first for the Penguins, 6:19 in, making it 1-0 Pittsburgh. Then Mike Richards, the captain of the Philadelphia Flyers, 8:30 in. The young captain would tie the game for the Flyers. Then 4:20 later, Mike Richards would get the second goal for the Flyers, making it 2-1 Philadelphia. But 14:11 in to the first, Sidney Crosby would tie the game. And then with 7 seconds left in the first period, Yevgeny Malkin would give a 3-2 lead for the Penguins. Then in the second period, nothing doing for Philadelphia, after that Malkin game winner. But 4:50 in a shorthanded would make it a little too far for the Flyers to reach at 4-2. And Fleury faced 28 shots, 21 shots on Martin Biron for the Flyers. In game number 2, it went back to Mellon Arena, and a very similar situation was had in game number 2. 37 shots on Biron for the Penguins in a winning effort, and 32 shots on Fleury. In the first period, it was the Penguins again who struck first, 10:48 in, a power play goal for Sidney Crosby. 5:46 into the second, Jeff Carter, their young forward, tied the game. From 13:43 in, Marian Hossa made it 2-1 in favor of the Penguins. Then with 24 seconds left in that period, Mike Richards would tie the game for the Flyers. 8:51 in, Max Talbot would get the game winner in game 2 to make it 3-2. And then with 29 seconds left in regulation, Jordan Staal would rip an empty netter to make it 4-2 in favor of the Penguins and send Pittsburgh east to Wachovia Center in Philadelphia with a 2-0 series lead. .503 into the first period, Ryan Whitney on a power play make it 1-0 Penguins in game 3. 7:41 into game number 1, Marian Hossa would make it 2-0 Pittsburgh. 10:59 into the first, R.J. Umberger, the future Columbus Blue Jacket, would cut the lead in half. In the second, nothing for the Flyers, and they wouldn't score in the third. 9:58 in, Ryan Malone would make it 3-1, and Marian Hossa on an empty netter with 54 seconds left would end up ending the game for the Pittsburgh Penguins. 18 shots only on Fleury, 24 shots on Barron, and the Penguins would go to Wachovia Center in Philadelphia with a chance to sweep the series, but just as in the previous round for a milestone by Pittsburgh, it would not happen, and the home team would find a way to come all the way back, at least to that point. Nothing in the first period, but 8:27 in, Jeffrey Lupo made it 1-0 Flyers. 11:48 in a power play goal. Danny Briere, first-time Flyer, the longtime Sabre, made it 2-0 Flyers. And 18:15 into the first, a power play goal by Jeff Carter made it 3-0 Philadelphia. Nothing in the second period, but 3:16 in, Jordan Staal made it a 4-1 game. Then 14:11 in, Jordan Staal made it a 3-2 game, a 3-2 game. But then with 33 seconds left in regulation, Jeffrey Lupul scooted the empty netter in and got the Philadelphia Flyers alive in the series. Barra had 36 saves on 38 shots. He faced 38 shots, and Fleury faced 33 shots in a losing effort. And it would go to Game 5, and this was all Pittsburgh. Marc-Andre Fleury got another shutout, his first of the conference final. 2:30 in, as he faced 21 shots, and Barra faced 25. 2:30 into the first period, Ryan Malone on a power play made it 1-0 Penguins. 9:50 into the first period, Yevgeny Malkin made it 2-0. Then they went to the second period, 8:24 in, Hossa made it 3-0 Pittsburgh. Ryan Malone, 11:42 in on the power play, made it 4-0 Penguins. 19:02 into the second, Jordan Staal made it 5-0, and 4:03 into the third, Pascal Dupuis made it 6-0 Pittsburgh, and the Penguins won the Eastern Conference for the first time since 1992. There they would go to the Stanley Cup Final and face an absolute draconianly deep team in the Detroit Red Wings. And so Game 1 would start there in Joe Louis Arena against this Detroit team, and they were completely overmatched, at least in Game 1. Mikhail Samuelsson would score first and second period after a scoreless first, where he was watching a Pittsburgh line change and was able to go around the net and around by Fleury, and realizing the decommitment of the goal crease by Rav Shkideri, Samuelsson slipped one right past the sprawling right pad and leg of Marc-Andre Fleury. 2:16 in, Samuelsson got another on a line change off the side, making it 2-0 Red Wings. And 17-18 in on a shorthanded goal off the clearing attempt by Daniel Cleary. The Pittsburgh Penguins made it 3-2. No, not 3-2, made 3-0. And then Henrik Zetterberg got a power play goal. 13 seconds left to make it 4-0 Detroit. On another goal, which was at a similar time, Detroit made it having another chance to win big in game number 2. 6:55 in. It was Brad Stewart. He made it 1-0 Red Wings in Louis. In game 1, Fleury had 36 shots on him. Osgood only 19 shots on him. Stewart made it 1-0 Red Wings. 11:18 in. Holmstrom made it 2-0 Detroit. There were no scoring in the second period. 8:48 in. Filppula made it 3-0 Red Wings, and that was all. Another shutout for Osgood. 22 shots on Osgood, stopping all of them. 34 shots on Fleury, where 3 went through. In Mellon Arena, the Penguins trying to hold serve, and they would do so with a must-needed win in Game 3 on the Red Wings. For that game, 17-25 in, Crosby would make it 1-0 for the Penguins, finally, for the first time all series. In the second period, 2:34 in, Crosby on a power play goal would make it 2-0 Pittsburgh. 14:48 in, Franzen would cut the lead in half. And for the third period, 17-18 in, Hall would make it 3-1 Pittsburgh. Mikael Samuelsson would cut it to 3-2 in the third. And that would be all. Hall's goal being the game winner. Osgood would have 24 shots on him. Fleury would have 34 shots on him. And Pittsburgh would get their first win in the Stanley Cup Finals since that point in 1992. In Pittsburgh, the Penguins were going to try to see what they could do against Detroit. In the first period, 2:51 in, Pittsburgh struck first again. A power play goal for Marian Hossa, his 10th of the year. Nick Lidstrom would score 7:06 in to tie the game at 1. Nothing in the second period, but 2:26 into the third, Yuri Hudler would score the first goal for the Detroit Red Wings. And Osgood would have 23 shots on him. I mean, everything but one. Fleury had 30 shots on him. And that would be it for game 4. And after game 4, incoming would be game 5, a gigantic game of epic proportions in Detroit in Joe Louis Arena. Now, 8:37 into the first period, Hossa made it 1-0 Penguins. 14:41 into the first. Pittsburgh got a 2-0 lead. Then to the second period, the rookie Darren Helm, 2:54 in, made it 2-1. And then 6:43 into the third, a power play goal by Pavel Datsyuk tied the game. And 9:23 in, the Franzen line was out there. Franzen, Zetterberg, as such, tried to play it around, went off the stick, and then it would go to Rafalski, who top-shelved it, and what a goal. It was a beautiful moment, and Detroit thought they were going to win, but with 3 seconds left, with 45 seconds left, 35 seconds left, Max Talbot would score his third goal of the playoffs, tying the game and going to a third overtime game where the shots were in this entire regulation, 58 shots on Fleury, 32 shots on Osgood, and the Penguins, after a moment where Peter Sikora said to Pierre McGuire and those in the NBC staff that he felt like he was going to score, had a deflected blocked shot, got the rebound, and shot it past the blocker side of Osgood, and finally beat him in triple overtime, 9:57 into the triple overtime, and kept the Penguins alive in the series. And there they would go to a game number 6. And in the first period, for the 5th time on all 6 games, the Red Wings would score first. 4th time in all 6 games. 5:03 in, Rafalski's 4th goal of the playoffs made it 1-0 Red Wings. 8:07 into the second, Filppula would make it 2-0 Detroit. 15:26 into the power play in the second, Malkin would cut the lead in half. And then 7:36 into the third, what would end up being the game winner, Henrik Zetterberg would motor through and score a goal on Fleury. 18:33 into the third, a power play by Marian Hossa would cut the lead in half. And as the puck was going across the side, Malkin got it at center and tried to feed Hossa, and it steered just wide of the goal crease of a diving Christopher Osgood. And with that last second play, the Pittsburgh Penguins lost the final to the Detroit Red Wings in 6. 30 shots on Fleury, 22 shots on Osgood. And it seemed that the Penguins rolled through their competition so fast, getting the shots were not that much, or if there were much, Fleury and the defense were able to steer. But as deep as the Detroit Red Wings were, they weren't able to deal with the immense amount of shots on goal that were had on the Pittsburgh Penguins, or on the Pittsburgh Penguins, and they were just not used to Stanley Cup final competition, and that may be precisely why they weren't able to win it and even had issues at home against this Detroit team. We see later that the next year they end up beating that Red Wing team in 7 in a similar situation. But you could have thought what a story would have been to just come out of the middle of nowhere and immediately reach that cup final. But it was a very good team with a lot of aspirations and a lot of competition. So I'm really happy I was able to finally do this one correctly. Hopefully you guys really enjoyed this one. Say hi to Devil's Rock, 1090. I hope you guys really enjoyed this one. This is a good one for me to make. The next one we'll be doing is the 2008-9 Detroit Red Wings season. So have a good day, everybody, and happy hockey.